All right, welcome to the All Candidates Forum for the 2021 officer elections. So how this is going to work is we're going to have all of the officer candidates are going to be able to speak. If there's more than one candidate for a position, they're going to be able to ask each other questions. And then they'll also be able to field questions from anyone who's attended. And also if anyone sends in questions anonymously, I'm going to post a form in the chat now in case you don't feel comfortable directly asking. Feel free to submit something there, and I'll ask it for you. The first speaker that we're going to have will be Jackie, who's running for president. Because she's the only candidate for president, she'll have 2 minutes to speak, plus a couple of minutes on top of that to field questions for the audience in case there is any. I'm not going to be super strict about the time limit. So if you go over a little bit, that's fine. But try to
that was going to be my first question. So
try to keep it as close to 2 minutes as you can.
Yeah, it should be 2 minutes plus or minus 10 seconds.
Oh yeah, that's perfectly fine. Like, don't worry about being super close.
Okay. Okay, I guess I can start. So hi everyone, my name's Jackie. I'm an NSCI 2T1 plus PY, and as you know, I'm running to be NSOC president. So I guess a little bit about why I'm running. I think I really loved being a part of the school community over the past 4 years, and have learned a lot, gained a lot from it. And I think based off of my experiences and my knowledge, I have a lot of sort of leadership experience, and I see being NSOC president as a way to give back and sort of use some of those skills that I've gained. So there's been a lot of awesome work, I think, that has been done over the past 4 years and changes that I've seen being at school. And I really want to continue on that and build an NSOC that's sort of accessible to students and support students to fulfill their goals. And the way I want to do that, so sort of my 3 main platform points are: 1, focusing on building community; 2, really increasing some of the equity, diversity, and inclusion work that's been happening; and then 3, supporting environmental sustainability within school. So getting a little bit more into that, I think this year has been a really challenging year, obviously, being online. And so in terms of building community, both being intentional in supporting different clubs and groups on campus, and also within NSOC of how we can do that in an online setting. And then also realizing that we hopefully will be coming back in the next year or so, and being prepared to do that and prepared to bring students back in, especially those that might only have a school experience that was online. Also, in terms of expanding on some of that equity and diversity and inclusion work, a lot of what I want to do is just make it a larger conversation and sort of work on some of the initiatives that have already been started. And then I also think I've seen a trend in students being more involved in sustainability initiatives and interested in those over the past 4 years. And I think it's time that NSOC reflects that. So there's an opportunity there both to examine the way we're doing things, but then also support other groups within engineering in terms of how they're approaching stuff like that. So that's the broad overview of myself and my platform. But there are more details in the Google Doc if you want to sort of read through a more intensive version, or feel free to ask me any questions right now.
Thank you, Jackie. And yeah, so we'll take, say, 2 or 3 minutes to ask questions. So if you'd like to ask any questions, I think we can just, if you want to just put your hand up and I'll call on you. Okay, Chris?
I didn't know if there was a raise hand method in Zoom, and I found it, so my apologies.
I mean, if you can't actually physically raise your hand and can't find a button to do it, you can also just say you have a question in the chat.
Chris, I think you did raise your hand, though.
I did, I found it.
Oh, okay.
At the same time I raised my physical hand. I raised my digital hand.
Yeah.
So after reading your platform, could you talk to some of your experience running EWB and how you think that may or may not be transferable to NSOC? And sort of specifically, one of the differences that I see would be background in NSOC, like governance and procedures, which would be somewhat different. So if you could talk to if there's a gap there, what you're planning to do to sort of navigate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in terms of transferable skills and experiences, as EW president, it's also a role where you are leading a pretty large team. Like our exec team was 20 plus people, plus beyond that, the chapter. So there's like that sort of like managing people, working with different people, and also creating and managing a vision that's similar. And as well as some of like the external relations fall onto EWB president, sort of with the like national organization, with like other EWB chapters. And that's actually something that also I think is similar in some ways. You're absolutely right that I think where the gap that I see in terms of like my knowledge and experience is in that like NSHOC policies and governance and specifics. The way that I've been thinking about like, or things that I want to do to bridge that are, one, just like really making sure that I'm starting to like, I've started to sort of like read past documentation, talk to people, that type of stuff, but also just like leaning on the supports that I have. So leaning on past presidents, leaning on Rhonda, leaning on other people, and realizing that I don't have that knowledge and making sure that I'm like spending a lot of time, especially over the next few months, building that up.
Thanks. I have many questions, as a good current president should. So if people want to cut in and like take turns, please do that. I will wait here. Thank you.
If anyone else has questions, we'll go with those first, and then we'll circle back to you, Chris, if we have time. And also keep in mind, if you have any additional questions, you can go ask candidates on their Facebook event. If you can't get on Facebook for some reason, let me know, and we can find an alternative way to get them to the candidates. But yeah, does anyone else have questions other than Chris? Brohath?
Thank you, Elliot. Thank you for your overview. I read briefly that you were also planning to introduce a sustainability project directorship, if I'm not wrong, on your platform. So could you expand a little bit more on that, what your goals are with that particular organization, what the scope would be, and so on?
Yeah, so I guess my thought for that is basically to have like a project directorship that focuses on that, on sustainability, but for like the first year to take that time to like do a little bit of an assessment. So both maybe like within NSHOC, or I think the scope can probably be tailored to what either the project director, like the person who gets hired, is interested in. And then also like in talking to more people and figuring out what would make sense, but sort of doing a little bit of an evaluation there and looking at what opportunities there actually are, both within NSHOC or like supporting other clubs or whatever it is. I don't know if that answered your question. It's not like completely fleshed out yet. I think it requires more like talking and thinking things through to get there.
Thank you so much.
We're getting past 3 minutes here, so I think we'll take one more question and then we're going to move on to Valerie, just out of interest of time. So does anyone else have questions? And if not, we'll go to Chris.
Okay, Chris, I had a lot of questions at the EWB presidential one yesterday, so we're late.
All right, I guess we'll go with Chris because nobody else has put their hand up.
Awesome, thank you. So one of the big responsibilities of president is working with the officer team and helping them in anything that they need. And obviously it can be different than some other team processes because you're not involved in the selection of the officer team. Although I guess you are one vote. So what are some of the actions that you would take overall as a leader in that sort of group, and in specific, if there were any conflicts that you needed to resolve between yourself and officers?
So I think overall, one of the things that I've found in like working in teams or generally is building up like a strong relationship before anything happens, like before you hit a roadblock is really valuable. So spending some time to like get to know the other officers, both like maybe in a casual setting, but then also knowing what their vision and goals are and how I can support with that and work with that. And also like how they work. Like it's always helpful to know like what are sort of the norms for you and your expectations. So I think setting that up right off the bat is like a really important part of that and something I want to do. And in terms of like resolving conflicts, I think just like being open to understanding what other people are saying and where they're coming from is super important. That's, I guess I realize we're also just kind of short on time, so I'll cut it off there, but that's sort of like the summary.
Perfect. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Brahath. Next, we're going to move on to Valerie. So similarly, a couple minutes to give a speech, and we'll do somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes for questions, depending on how long the questions were, because those were pretty lengthy ones. So yeah, take it away.
Okay. So hi, my name is Valerie, and I'm a MEX 2T1 plus PY running to be your VP Finance. Over the past 4 years, I've been consistently involved in school through leadership positions, and I've loved meeting passionate people dedicated to improving the world we've created here on campus. I've spent time as Fosh Kids co-chair, orientation vice chair finance, on the finance committee, director of UTech, and some other stuff. I think these roles have left me with a strong foundation for what you need in a VPF. I know how to organize and allocate a budget with input from others, negotiate and compromise to get the best value for our money and time, create strong sponsorship packages that actually work, and navigate engineering society's layered financial operations. Beyond all of this, I've developed a strong skill for using finances to facilitate new ideas while being flexible enough for unique circumstances. I think that when money is used effectively, or the lack of money is, it helps us facilitate new ideas and connect different groups together. So as your VPF, I would make decisions that focus on improving the value of your experience, your time, and your money. Some of my goals for this would be making financial operations first and foremost transparent and accessible so that different groups in school can use it to their advantage. Investing in online flexibility to help recreate that school community virtually, and streamlining the shipping process, which I know has cost us all quite a bit. Strengthening sponsorship for both clubs, teams, and TDs by providing guidance and templates. While working on NSOC's own partnerships. Continuing new initiatives that make use of our surplus to actively improve the experience, so kind of like the renovation or the mental wellness bursary, while also emphasizing the process that allows new initiatives to happen and be funded. And then just kind of as an officer overall, working with the officer team to improve engagement with the engineering society and overall school with things like virtual office hours, helping to navigate the overwhelming number of online events and activities, and creating opportunities for continuous feedback. Overall, I have the experience, knowledge, and relationships to effectively manage NSOC's finances while having the passion and drive to facilitate new ideas that improve the student, design team, and club experience. I believe that, money makes the world go round, and I would like to help the school world spin smoother. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Valerie. And so now we'll take a few minutes. If anyone has any questions for Valerie, feel free to stick your hand up. All right, past officer again. Go for it, Liz.
Hi Val, yeah, keeping up with that trend. Yeah, amazing platform, looks great. I just had a question relating to engagement with finances. So that's always a fun topic. How would you go about sort of encouraging people to get involved and just sort of like distilling some of that information coming out for people?
Mm-hmm. So I know that I think like every VPF has part of their platform the idea of making finances more transparent and accessible because it's always so difficult to actually do. And I know that like we have the information available on the website. So I think I would like to take the step that bridges it being like on the website to other platforms that people will read, and looking to make the information not just there, but easy to digest. So things like summarizing the information. So I really liked that there was a portion in a year where they did like summaries of board recaps that were easy to read and digest. So kind of implementing that, or even on the NSOC Instagram account, I think it'd be cool to do like a Finance Friday and kind of review how the finances are going, and more importantly, how other clubs and PDs can use that. So I think that it's very difficult or confusing to understand in what way will my budget be approved, and how can I get what I need for my club or my PD to work the best. And I think like making it really clear how it is you can get your budget approved, how it is you can get money, or in what case it's worth getting money, is a way of making finances accessible and digestible.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Liz and Valerie. We have a question in the chat that I guess I can just kind of read out from Chris Kwan. Do you foresee that the budget for clubs will increase with your increased external sponsorship initiatives, and how do you plan on supporting clubs' sponsorship strategies?
Okay, so I'd like to separate like the NSHOC sponsorship from clubs, PDs, and design teams. So for NSHOC sponsorship, I don't think it's worth getting like cash sponsorship for like then a community which like is generally positive. So sponsorship that way would involve things like deals for students in which that they can use, whether on like, for example, right now, like I think there's an opportunity for discounts on like food delivery services for students and things like that, kind of how we did the Domino's pizza deal for like half a year, like 2 years back. So that would be the NSOC way. In terms of clubs, PDs, and design teams, I know that there's always a struggle with sponsorship there, especially with design, especially with PDs and clubs. So I'd work to create like a template or guideline for how it is you can create your sponsorship package and release templates that can be readily used. In terms of budgets, whether or not the budgets increase themselves, I don't think that I can necessarily speak for. So I can provide you with a sponsorship template. I can work with you to kind of set an estimate or realistic target for what your sponsorship should be. And then you can include that in your budget, where budget kind of impacts, where I kind of influence or would influence your budget as a club is more in terms of club funding, like SIFSIF. So your sponsorship goal may or may not impact what we approve for club funding. If that answers your question.
Perfect. Thanks, Chris, for that question. And we'll take maybe one or two more. I think I saw Harrison's hand.
Yep. Cool. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for running. So I actually have one question about you for your platform. I noticed that you said you would be like reducing costs for PDs and design teams and clubs by like streamlining shipping and mailing. I just want to like know what you kind of mean by that, or like what kind of plans you have in place for that.
Mm-hmm. So I think that one's like a complicated one because it does involve a lot of parties. I know that there are a lot of opportunities in terms of shipping, especially now, which would provide discounts or like central pickup locations for small businesses or things like that. So whether or not you would work with Canada and have a small business account for NSOC, or I know that even when I was looking through UTech shipping, there are third-party shipping providers where if you choose a central location, they'll pick up all things there and deliver them. So for example, with when I was Vice Chair Finance of Orientation, one way to streamline costs there was because FoshKits orders so much from one supplier, that supplier will essentially give you other things for free if they're at a lower quantity. So by using like a PD or a group that has a lot of finances to begin with, and then kind of taking it upon yourself to reach out to other subcommittees and ask if they have things that they could order that you could streamline. If you take it on yourself to manage their orders and kind of organize, make sure they get done, you can find a way to coordinate drop-off locations, pick-up locations, and all of that would be done to lower costs that could otherwise be used for other things. So that's something that I'd be willing to do as a VPF. I see like how beneficial can be.
All right, perfect, thanks. I know I said I'd call on you next, RK, but we're hitting at about 5 minutes in the Q&A, and I know Valerie has some more to be as well. And we've got to move on to the Vice President Communications. So again, I'll send a link now in the chat. If you go there, you can find each candidate's Facebook event, and you can ask them questions on there. Perfect. So with that, we're gonna go. We're gonna move on to the. Oh, sorry. Thank you, thank you, Valerie. By the way, we're gonna move on to the Vice President Communications. We have 3 candidates for VP Com. I believe they're all here. Let me see. Yep. And so the way this will work is we're gonna give each candidate 3 minutes to make a speech. Then they'll be able to take 3-ish minutes to get questions from anyone who's here. And then once everybody is gone at the end, we're going to have a little bit of time for the VP Comp candidates to ask each other questions. Respectfully, of course. This is not a debate. Just a chance to ask each other some stuff. So I'm thinking the easiest way to do this would be just picking randomly. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that now. And so we're going to have George go first, if that's okay.
Hello, so I'm George in ECE 2C4 and I'm running for VP Comms. I love making puns, hope you understand. I used to do programming, swimming, and I'm passionate about programming. So a little bit about why I'm running. So coming in as a first year, I'm grateful for the incredibly kind and welcoming school community and the friends and support I've received in just this year. And I'm keen on giving back to the community any way I can, from simple things like answering questions on Piazza to managing ECE Club communications. So some of the experience that I bring in is that I'm currently the ECE Club communication director. I've seen firsthand the tremendous amount of work in advocating on behalf of students, such as working with professors to shift midterm dates, alleviate excessive workload, and much more. I found it surprising that some of the advocacy that NSOC and that discipline clubs do is not that visible to students, and I've seen anecdotal evidence that their voices aren't being heard. So I'd like to change that. And so some of the things that I propose to address this is having a piazza and using that to collect feedback. So first, I like to create a school-wide piazza, which we can use to gain insight into emergent issues, conduct polls to gauge student opinion, and do much more in ways that traditional platforms can never do. Second, I like to accomplish a coffee with George, and it's kind of inspired from the coffee with Chris. And the purpose is to conduct exploratory interviews with as many undergrads as possible to understand what frustrates students and how NSOC can better address their needs. And the third thing I like to create is the VP shadowing opportunities to encourage broader student participation in engineering society, and also to increase visibility into engineering society operations, especially for first years. They do not have as much visibility into how engineering society works, and that should change that and help make it easier for candidates, future candidates like me, to basically get a better handle on how engineering society works, and also create opportunities for professional development. There are also many more details that I have, but for the sake of time, I'll have to end it here. If you have any questions, feel free to ask or check out the detailed platform on my Facebook event.
Perfect. Thank you very much, George. And yeah, you were well under time, so thank you for that. I'll now give, we're going to be a bit more strict on time, so try to keep your questions a little bit shorter, just because we have 3 candidates to get through here. So we're going to have 3 minutes for a quick Q&A with George. And so with that, you guys can raise hands, and I see Carmen has raised her hand, so if you want to go first.
Hi, George. Thanks for running. I have a quick question. I like the Piazza idea, but like you mentioned, it's a lot of people are not interested in NSOC or aware of the things that it does. How would you actually get people to go to the Piazza, join it, and engage on it?
One of the things that I'm planning on working on is having more collaboration with the faculty. I think in terms of getting more people to adopt the school-wide Piazza, speaking with professors and having them advertise the Piazza for us, and also getting more people through the newsletters can also help work with that, can also help work for that.
Are there any other questions? RK?
Right, yeah. Hi, George. So I was wondering about the VP shadowing opportunity. Like, what exactly is the plan? Like, what are they going to shadow for? And you understand that NSOC is not just the office team, there's a lot more going on with it. So
Yeah.
how will shadowing just the officers help students connect with like all the other aspects of it, as well as how many people realistically can you get to shadow to really like spread the word? Is it just grooming a bunch of people to be the next officers, or is it something that you'd like to be a bit more expansive?
Wait, sorry, can you, it kind of cut off a little bit on the end.
Yeah, like are you just going to select a few people who you'd like to build up as the next officers with the shadowing opportunity, or do you want it to be like a more expansive thing? Because I'm just failing to see the scope of this.
Oh, I see. So in terms of scope, I'd imagine it be more of a on a smaller scope, at least at the start. It's sort of to gauge um, where student interest lies and what sort of positions that people are interested in, and really it's really there to help people who, if there are future candidates that would like to become, for example, a VP communications, it'll help them understand what the responsibilities are and know what they're getting into. And I think it'll be helpful especially for students who are on the edge of wanting to apply for a certain position and really trying to understand what they're getting into. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, George. Thank you for those who asked questions. But unfortunately, 3 minutes is up, so we're gonna have to move on to the next candidate, and that will be Brohath.
Can you all hear me? Okay. Cool. Let me know when to start, Elliot.
Whenever you're ready.
Cool. Hey everyone, my name is Prohat and I'm a Chem 2T1+1 going into my 4th year. I believe our next VP communication should be an experienced individual who is well versed in NSOC governance and affairs, such as myself. As an active member of school for the past 4 years, I see great value in focusing on increasing transparency and improving accessibility of information to students as VP comms. I have 2 projects to achieve these goals. The first is the school app. There are many reasons to build an app, but I will highlight 2 reasons as to why I think this could be an asset to our community. The first is having information right at our fingertips. If you want to find a club or learn about NSOC governance in an online platform, you can go on the app and literally type those keywords, and there you have it. It saves you the hassle of emailing the officers or board members or finding that right tab on the school website. The second reason is the flexible functions of the app. Since we build the app, we control the functions that we add to it. The functions could range from simple notification announcement that reaches all students, or fun ones like ordering pickup from Hard Hat Cafe right from your lecture so that you can order 2 wet brownies before they run out. The potential for ideas for this app are endless. The second project that I had in mind are bi-weekly video updates done by myself. I wanted to do this to keep the officers accountable. Instead of waiting till the accountability meeting to get caught up on what the officers have done over the last 6 months, or having to go to the board meetings to get the reports of the officers and the board members, you could simply just watch the videos. And if you have a doubt or uncertainty or ambiguity of what the officers are doing, you could simply just comment on the video, clarify with a clarifying question, and they could answer it immediately. It encourages a 2-way conversation and keeps the conversation continuous. As an ex-president of Yofri Toastmasters, organizing weekly meetings and transitioning an in-person club to online effectively, interacting with the faculty and students as class rep and academic director of Chem Club, interacting with Frosh as school patrol for the last 4 years, immersing myself with NSOC policies as DRO and an ex-speaker candidate, and finally, creating and leading the school international transition. I believe I've gained valuable experience to fulfill my role as VPC, goals, and more. The vote is clear. I want you guys to vote for me, vote Prohat for VP Comms. I'll field any questions you may have. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Rohath. And so now we'll do another 3-minute Q&A. So if anyone has any questions for Brohath, feel free to raise your hand now. Oh, we actually just got one on the anonymous forum. The question was, the video idea is cool, but how will you ensure that it will reach everyone?
One of the things that I've specialized in for the past few organizations that I've been a part of is marketing. And at the very beginning, it will be difficult to find a good reach, but we have so many platforms that NSOC has already established its uh, presence in. We have YouTube, we have Instagram, we have Facebook. Although that is a dying platform, we even have a Discord channel for all the 2T4s. So initially, once the videos are up, maybe on YouTube or Instagram, I plan on working with the social media coordinator in order to find the best channels for it to reach in. And obviously, we also have the student mailing list, which I found as a very powerful tool to reach all students during this virtual thing, because all students, whether the first year to fourth year, they do check the mail. That is something that we can guarantee. It was very useful in my experience with school international transition. So I think those are the places that we could use so that these videos could reach people. Hope that answered the question.
Cool, thanks. And I think I saw Miriana's hand go up first. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. So yeah, Miriana.
Thanks, Elliot. Thank you, Rohath. Every time someone says Facebook is dying, I feel really old. So NSHOC currently has, or at least we're supposed to have, an accessibility committee that would work to kind of make our platforms, both virtual and in person, much more accessible. Would you want to get involved in that? And if so, what are some things you want to be a part of? I know there's been talk in the past about adding things like making sure that Quarkus can allow for pronoun changes, or like making sure that we have like audio-visual website translation, so folks who or with blind, low vision can be a part of our interactions more. So have you thought about that, and is that something that you'd want to get involved in during your term?
That is, I think, an important thing to focus on as well. I wasn't explicitly aware that there was an accessibility committee that was going to be there, but definitely I would love to be a part of it. And the main idea that I had was to implicitly have these small things like, for example, subtitles in videos could be a huge thing for if people have tough hearing, right? And having those small things included in my ideas as part of accessibility, in terms of accessibility. But if there's a committee that's there, and I would love to be a part of it, because communication is one of the biggest issues that can arise when we're talking about accessibility, right? And my platform is literally on accessibility of information. So I would definitely be an active part of it. And I don't know exactly what the specific things that the committee aims to achieve, but I would be involved in it and see what I can do best to support that committee.
Cool, thank you.
All right, apologies to Andrew and Archit. We unfortunately are out of time for that Q&A. But again, if you'd like to ask Rohath any questions, feel free to send that in this Facebook event. I'm also, and I think I'll talk about this a bit more towards the end of the forum, I'm going to see if any candidates are willing to stick around a little bit longer to maybe field some extra questions. Completely up to you. You don't have to. I understand other things might come up. But we'll look into that a bit more towards the end of the forum. And so last but certainly not least, we'll have Inho.
Yep. Right. Hi, I'm Inho and NSEC2T4, and I'm here because I want to modernize NSOC's current communications platforms. It's 2021. I don't think that Facebook, whose average user age is over double my own age, should be the main source of central communications around school. I believe that the ultimate goal of a VP Comms is to tailor communications to all students. I want to revamp the infrastructural changes with the help of project directors, striving to be adaptive towards every one of your needs and preferences, bridging the gap between the upper years and the younger incoming years. And instead of talking about my platforms and my promises, which you can find on my Facebook event and the voter statements doc, I want to tell you why I'm running for VP Comms this year as a first-year student. And ultimately, I hope that I can send a message to all of you about the need for an update at this critical time. Coming into U of T knowing no one, it was really difficult connecting to upper years and my peers initially, and even now. Prior to this year, we probably didn't realize the importance of a coherent, integrated communications platform because people used to be able to talk to each other in person. But now that we've gone through a full online academic year, I think it's clear to us that having a modernized platform is more than necessary. I'd like people to realize that my generation and the cohort coming in below us is changing fast. Our preferences are vastly different from school's current ones. We don't use Facebook or Messenger. We don't even check our emails often. After hearing some concerns of a frosh disconnect, I've had to resort to creating a shared school events calendar on Google Docs myself, organizing all the daily, dozens of daily school-related Facebook notifications into one accessible document for all. I've created websites, messenger chatbots, and used modern platforms so that my peers could continue to stay engaged, not overwhelmed and lost. I've been the Students' Union Secretary and served on the Communications Council in high school. And as a current class rep, I'm doing my best to accurately inform and represent the interests of my 2T4 cohort by joining the Policies and Structures Committee and the Faculty Council, observing the interactions between the bylaws and faculty with the students. I know the needs and struggles of this community, which is especially prevalent in the younger years. I will do whatever I can to make sure that we don't marginalize anyone, using class reps and project directors to reach all corners of our community. My hope is that whoever gets elected next can be leaders in these changing times and consider my call for school reform. My dream is that whatever the results, we as a community can adapt in supporting each and every one of us. My name's In-ho Kim, and I'm ready to serve everyone's needs so that all of us could reach our full potential. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, In-ho. And so next we'll start fielding questions. Anyone who'd like to ask a question, feel free to stick your hand up. If not, I have an anonymous question here. Okay. So the question on the form here is, what other platform would you use instead of Facebook? And how would you make sure it's accessible to everyone?
I'm currently running a 2T4 Insight Discord with over 600 people with 1.4 million messages sent already. I don't think Facebook is a good idea, but Discord also may not be a feasible platform for the younger years either. I plan to send out lots of surveys to you so that I could hear your feedback on what platforms you think would be best to connect with the school community. And as a messenger chatbot is one idea that I came up with, which is similar to a Navi Health bot that U of T runs as a mental health wayfinder. I think that could really be a valuable resource. If you type in any keywords, it will return automatically whatever you're looking for. And I've already created that, and I hope to implement that into the school platform also.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions in the audience? Looks like, sorry, I wasn't sure who put up their hand first. Was it George or Andrew? All right, I guess we'll just go with Andrew because he tried to ask a question last time and couldn't get one in.
Okay, yeah, I put my hand down because I think George's came up, but it's okay. So first of all, thank you for amazing speech. Yeah, I was wondering, could you tell us a bit more about the messenger chatbot and what you have been working on so far? Because I know you've been doing some like testing in your 2T4 messenger groups. Could you tell us a bit more about the results of that as well?
Yeah, for sure. This is also an initiative that I took in my high school, creating a messenger chatbot. So it's really hard reaching out to people, especially if you're an introvert or quiet or lost. It's really hard reaching out to maybe gain the resources you want. So by creating a messenger chatbot, it's basically a user similar to Siri, Alexa, stuff like that, that you only need to submit keywords like, where's the school calendar? And then maybe it would return a school calendar, which I also hope to implement, where clubs can all submit their events and have a centralized platform where everyone can see what's coming in every day. And the messenger bot, I hope it will really help organize everyone, stay everyone updated. And you could also subscribe to optional notification about events or any other events happening around school and NSOC.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
We got 30 more seconds, so George, if you want to ask your question quickly, I'm sorry for not getting that in order.
I was just going to ask about your messenger platform. Regarding for international students, how would you plan on connecting with them, especially considering that some of them may have to deal with inaccessible websites that may not be available in their region?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks. Yeah, so as a current class rep, I've also had the challenge of reaching out to international students, and I'm ready to adapt to any platform. I'm not only rooting for one platform because that could always change. I don't have a set of really goals that I plan to just complete and get over with. I have a vision of improving accessibility to everyone. Will you be international, or you'd be just a quiet person who's scared of reaching out but still want to access all the resources? And I hope that by Messenger bot, or even integrating that as a chatbot to the school website, I think that I could reach anyone, regardless if you're international or not. Thanks.
All right. So actually, what we're going to do now is, if any of the VP Com candidates would like to ask, I guess George just kind of started this for us. If any VP Com candidates would like to ask other candidates some questions, feel free to throw your hand up. We're going to try to go one at a time, but you know, it's kind of free form, and we'll take maybe 4 or 5 minutes to do that. See, Brohath's hand is up, so if you want to go first.
Yeah, I don't have specific questions. I'm just gonna read what Carmen asked and add on to it. She asked on chat, can we see the, this is to Enho, by the way, can we see the Google Calendar that you created? And my part of the question would be, are you aware that school.ca already has a calendar set up? Yeah, just, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I unfortunately could not share the Google Calendar on my Facebook page because it had club names and I couldn't really say they were like endorsing or anything. I can DM it to you. Feel free to reach me that way. And yes, I've seen the school calendar, but unfortunately, it's only limited to NSOC events, and current schools, even those not affiliated with school, can submit their events and have their links on that page. It's all NSOC events, and it's looking really sparse. My calendar has all Facebook events. And right now, I'm currently just scouting through Facebook myself and putting all the Facebook links as hyperlinks, the titles, all the dates, all the times, and one Google Doc. And I hope that by integrating that to school, I don't have to take all the work over hours on day, just organizing through all the information myself. My hope is that schools can submit all their events onto a platform, and it will update automatically on the calendar for all to see, for all to stay organized in a centralized platform. Thanks for your question.
All right. I guess George and Brohath have both asked questions of other candidates. So, Inho, do you have a question for another candidate?
Sure. I was actually just curious, this is to Brohath, about the app. Do you have any app development, I guess, experiences, or are you planning to get external help to create the app? And what are your thoughts on getting more student engagement and feedback in towards creating the app?
That's actually a perfect question. Thank you so much for asking that. So the first thing that I'd like to address is the timeline aspect of the app, getting to student feedback and how I'm going to engage students. As I've already talked about, I created and led the School International Transition, so I have experience in leading a project, you know, starting from scratch. In terms of the app itself, I plan the first 2 things that I would like to do for the app is to send out a survey to all students, you know, gathering demographics of what OSs they use for their phones. It's not a single OS market, right? We have iOS, we have Android, and we may have other platforms as well. We need to get our ground and ask about what they would like to see in the app. I do have many ideas, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's all the ideas, right? It's not an exhaustive list. So a survey is the first thing. And as VP Comms, as the officer team, we already have ways to send emails directly to all students and get feedback from them. Miriana sent a survey regarding the AAC before the accountability meeting, and it received tremendous response. And it is a proven way of getting feedback. So I think that's the first thing that I'm doing. The second thing I'll be doing is understanding the legality behind the app. I already read the Not-for-Profit Organizations Corporations Act, and there is no explicit way of it telling you can't have an app. So I think it should be fine, but I'm still going to do my due diligence and make sure we're not doing anything illegal, right? And after that, after we get enough feedback and surveys, I'll be putting together a team. as I did for my project directorship before. And I'm planning to, we have ECEs, we have NSIs, which like with a student body of more than 1,000 people. I'm sure there'll be few people who are interested in app development. I'll be conducting interviews over the course of May and June, and we'll be looking to implement the first version of the app, or at least that's the timeline I have, with or without challenges by the start of next academic year. And in terms of app development experience, I do not have any, but the idea is if app development experience is all you needed for making an app over the last 3 years, any VP.com or literally any officer could have just started and coded it out and brought you the app. It's much more than that. It's a more involved process. And I think I have the experience and the confidence to pull it off. And I think it'll be a really good thing for a good platform for students for the coming years. Thank you for the question.
All right, I think we'll do one more question here, and then we're going to move on to Archit to do the VPA stuff. So if any candidates have a question for another candidate, otherwise we can just move on now. All right, looks like we'll be done here. So with that, we will move on to Archit. And so because Archit is running unopposed, he will have 2 minutes to make a speech, and we'll do something similar, 3 to 5-ish minutes for Q&A at the end. So whenever you're ready, Archit, take it away.
Yep. Thank you, Elliot. Just a quick apology in advance. I'm sorry if I come off as a little groggy. It's like 3:30 in the morning and I'm very sleepy right now. But yeah, so I'm going to use this time slot to more or less talk about me, not too much about my campaign, because that's stuff I want to keep restricted to Facebook. So I'm Archit. I'm a 2T2+1, and I'm running for the position of VP Academics. So first question is, why am I interested in this position? So I think this goes back to my story of my very early years of university. I came into U of T in 2018 as a part of the 2T2 batch, and due to an underwhelming academic performance in my first semester, university asked me to step out, and I got put on repeat probation. So I came back the next year. I came back in 2019 as a first-year student again. And since then, I've been on honest standing. And I think like one of the big things I've taken from that is the fact that how much of an impact, how much of a difference it can make when someone is in an environment where they feel supported, where they know what's going on, and where they have a healthy support system, where they have people who they can talk to about what's happening, what's going wrong. And I realized it firsthand how much of a big difference it makes. And that's why since then I've been trying to get involved in roles where I can sort of put in efforts towards ensuring that people have this sort of a positive experience on the whole in regards to academics. So I've worked as a class rep in the past, and I was also a part of one of AAC subcomps this year, the ROA. And even though I'm not a class rep this year, I've still continued to be working with the EC Club on the student staff committee, interacting with the faculty, getting things sorted out. Yeah, so that's one of the strengths that I bring to the table. I have past experience of having worked with NSOC. I'm also the board of directors representative right now. So I understand the way NSOC structure is set up, who to contact for what issues. I also been on the faculty council as a part of my role of being a class rep in my first year. So I understand how interactions with the faculty work, what are sort of nuances of getting things done basically. And I've had in-depth sort of discussions with Mariana and Zahir, the past two VP academics, to get a better understanding of what are the COVID specific challenges that have cropped up. So I feel that I have a good understanding of that as well moving forward. I think I'll just quickly bring up one of the things that I don't have on my Facebook page. So apart from the two big campaign points that I have, the one big thing that I want to bring this year is working with the VP Com to sort of improve communication. And for those of you who might have seen, this is sort of synonymous to the account that I've been running with the computer engineering board directors representatives. There's an Insta account, ECBOD. And what we did on that account throughout this year has been to basically like get information about what we are doing inside NSOC out there in a manner that's easy to comprehend for anyone who's not involved. So that's the basic idea that I want to carry forward now. And I Elliot just messaged me that I've gone over the time limit, so I'm going to stop right now, open the floor for questions. Sorry about that.
No worries. Thank you very much, Richard. With that, we'll go to candidates. Go to questions, and we'll take, I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes, depending on how long they are. And the first one we have in the chat here is from Carmen, which, oh, never mind, it's not a question. It's just saying thank you. It's a nice comment there. So looks like Rihanna has a question, keeping with the tradition of officers. So if you want to go.
Thanks, Elliot. Thank you, Archit. Glad to see you running. As some folks know, we have a few standing committees within the faculty that students have the right to vote on. We're also looking right now to create a new student experience committee so that we might be increasing the total amounts of things like examinations, community affairs, and whatnot. As VPA, you kind of help decide who goes in these committees, and you can put yourself on a committee technically if you feel like you'd be the right person. What committees would you want to put yourself on as VPA, and why in this case?
Okay, that's a very good question. And I think there have conversations in this regard with Say and with yourself as well about this. And I think I haven't taken a firm decision on that yet, but I would definitely want to be involved in the important ones, that's the exam committee at least. And if it's a realistic target, then I would want to be involved in all of the standing committees, because I won't be the sole representative. If it's possible, I would love to have someone else being there as well, to not only have diversification of perspective, but also have a different sort of representation there. But I would want to be there on all the standing committees to firsthand know about what's happening and be there to talk with the faculty on different issues. And I mean, just to quickly add on that, I think keeping that in mind is also why I've cut down on my co-curricular commitments for next year, because I know that I'm going to try commit myself wherever I can in this role.
Thank you, Archie and Mariana. Are there any other questions from the audience? If not, we have an anonymous one. All right, I guess we'll have Jerry go.
Yeah, hi Arshit. So I've had the pleasure to work with you in the past for EC Club, but I have found, and I'm sure you agree, that the faculty, at least our department, has been a bit unresponsive to some of our concerns. And now that should you get this role, you'd be speaking to faculty members directly, and you could have a better chance to sort of relay our concerns. But how would you sort of go about doing that?
That's a very good question. And I think that can be applied in general context as well, because in this role, you're going to run into situations where a lot of times faculty is just not seeing the reasoning you're trying to approach it with. And I think two things on that one. One is a very, very good insightful point that I got from conversation with Mariana early on, is how you approach the meeting. So you try to tackle the meeting in the sense that you understand the background of the folks who are there in that meeting. You try to understand what's the sort of personality type, what is their field of interest, what are they sort of, what do they try to sort of, what are the sort of things that's important for them? Like, is it student welfare? Is it going by the institutional rules and all that stuff? And tackling the perspective from that angle, that really, really will help. The second thing is using data wherever and whenever I can. And using data in such a manner that it is data that they are ready to accept. It is data that they sort of approve of. So like designing surveys or something that have neutral, non-biased creating questions and getting that information and presenting arguments with that. That's the two things I can think of right now, yeah.
All right, thank you, Jerry and Archit. And I'm going to ask the anonymous question now just to give equal airtime to those who couldn't be here today. And so the question is, what would be your strategy to best support online PEY students?
Online PEY students. That's actually a good question. I haven't really thought much about that. I think that for that, my thing will start by getting to meet the PEY representatives and sitting down and talking to them about the work they have been doing. But I think more than that, I think this is a question that can be taken in a general sense again. Like, it's about supporting students on an online setup as well. And I think one of the first things that I want to do is be able to sort of devise good communication channels, like not just me spreading information through my emails or me spreading information through an Insta or any platform channel that I come up with, but also effectively using sort of AAC to get information through the representatives. Because end of the day, you've got to understand that the reps are there to serve their constituency. They are there to not only advocate for their constituency, but also get information back to them. So I want to try basically like use the AAC, use the the platform communication channels to effectively get information out there. Because once you build this sort of transparent sort of thing, people are also feel more included, feel more sort of welcome to come and ask you questions. And you build that kind of an environment, things are going to be good. People are going to feel supported.
All right, thank you very much, Archit. With that, we're going to move on to our final round of candidates, which will be the Vice President Student Life candidates. This is another competitive one, so each candidate will have 3 minutes to give a speech, 3 minutes to take Q&A, and then at the end we'll do a little bit of an exchange. I'll make sure each candidate gets the opportunity to ask at least one question. Again, we didn't have this problem last time, so I'm sure it won't happen this time either, but I am going to be more firm on the deadlines because we need to get through everybody and it's only fair. So I might send you a DM if I think you're about to go over time. I'll try to avoid cutting you off. If it's an extra 5 seconds, don't worry about it, but past that it might get a little bit. So anyway, I made a randomized order. So with that, we will start with Andrew. So whenever you're ready, feel free to start.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Elliot. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrew. I'm a second-year student in NSTI, and it's my pleasure to run for VP Student Life. So I'll break down my speech into 2 parts. I'll talk on my platform and then go over my experiences. So alongside some of the constitutionally prescribed duties for VPSL, some of the things I'm interested in include more money for fraud, as suggested by the last OC, not only for the 2T5s, but also for the 2T4s, and then finding better ways of engaging students in the club sphere. In addition to that, I'm interested in working with the next mental wellness director in our continued collaboration with the faculty to establish in-demand resources through initiatives such as MHHacks. Lastly, I'm passionate about making sure the features of ESIP and the PUI co-program are implemented as negotiated with the ECC. And you might be wondering, right, how do we know that Andrew's going to deliver on his promises? Well, let me provide a few examples of things I've done in the past that will lead to, in my opinion, a successful engagement between me and the VPSL role. So last year, I served on the board of directors for both the Engineering Society and the UTSU, and in the UTSU context, I approved more than $380,000 worth of financial aid applications to UT students. This is something that's directly applicable to club affiliations and funding applications. Likewise, I was involved in a variety of school-affiliated clubs and entities such as IEEE, UTTL, and Tech Explorer, and I worked to establish a few new clubs as well. You might have heard of MHHacks, or U of T Technical Specialists, or U of T Inventors Club. And that provided me with relevant experience that can directly empower others in both joining clubs and also starting their new ones and acquiring funding for that. And lastly, seeing that I still have a minute and a half, I want to talk about motivation, right? So through the past few elections, we realized that a lot of people are not interested in NSHOC or in student government in general, because they, first of all, don't believe that student politicians are, really motivated to work for the students, but also I don't think we do sufficient marketing to demonstrate the work that we do for the students. And a lot of times they're not wrong, right? So I hope through, for student politicians who demonstrate experiences and ability to deliver upon their promises, that we can change our image as a student society, that we can create real life impact with data-driven results. So yeah, that's my platform. When the time comes, make sure you pick someone, doesn't have to be me, of course, but make sure you pick someone who has both the proven history of student leadership, but also the passion to leverage experience to create and fulfill unmet needs in our school community. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you very much, Andrew. With that, we will move on to the Q&A, and I guess we'll continue this, and we'll have Harrison ask the first question.
Cool. Thanks for running, Andrew. So I guess I'll just start off. I have a bunch of questions, but I'll start off with one. And this is kind of two-part, but like, so first off, you've been involved in a lot, and I kind of want to know like a bit more into why, out of all the things you've been so involved in, you've been choosing to go into VPSL. And I guess the other thing is like, being an NSOC officer is very time-consuming, and I just want to know like, will you be involved in other things next year, and like, how will you manage your time around that? So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Elliot, can I go ahead?
Yeah, you don't have to ask me, just respond.
Okay, so thank you, Harrison. So first part of the question, why VP Student Life? So I feel like out of all the roles, VP Student Life is the one that's most comprehensive in terms of being able to aid students in their professional development, their extracurricular activities, as well as their academics. So things I mentioned like ESIP and PUI, these are not traditionally VPSL roles, but things I'm passionate about getting involved in, and I things like mental health advocacy and similar activities as well. So yeah, I think VPSL is actually a very comprehensive role in terms of being able to engage students in all facets of their student life. Right, student life is so broad, and outside of what's said in the bylaws, there's so much that the VPSL can get involved in, and there's quite a few areas of initiative that I'm passionate about. And then second question, time management. Yeah, I think I'll have to quit a few clubs to do this. Hope that answers the question. I think dedicating something like 15 hours a week to VPSL is pretty realistic. Maybe more depending on like how much additional work the VPSL wants to do. But definitely not going to be able to maintain the same level of involvement in these student organizations as I have been this past year.
All right, perfect. I'm gonna just take a question from the anonymous forum just so we give equal airtime to those people. So there was a question asked specifically for Andrew, and it's, how do you intend to influence the PEY plan from a role such as VPSL? Why are you running for VPSL and not another officer role with more involvement in the PEY deal if this is important enough for you to put in your campaign?
Thank you for the question. Thank you for joining us. So first of all, the individuals who are directly involved in the PEY negotiations are the PEY representatives, right? So through a approved motion at the board, the president and VPA are not directly involved in the negotiations anymore. So there wouldn't have been a better role for me to join. And this is not something that's also included in, for instance, the constitution for the role for VPSL. It's just something that I'm personally passionate about, right? So no, this is not part of my campaign, but I have strong feelings about our current PEY program and how it can be improved. Like, I register with ESIP, and all that does is direct me to company websites to apply without a custom referral link, and that's kind of useless. I paid $130 for nothing. I'm sure I heard some complaints about the PEY program itself as well. So working with Vice Dean Tom Coyle, right? Working with the PEY representatives and working with the Engineering Career Center, I want to make sure, although the negotiations are coming to an end and we're starting the implementation stage for the 2T4s, I want to make sure some of the things that they promise, like financial aid applications, like fee deferrals, these things are implemented up to standard on a timely and quality basis. I hope that answers the question.
Okay. So with that, we will move on to our next candidate. Thank you, Andrew. Next, we have Carmen. So whenever you're ready.
Cool. Hello, everyone. My name is Carmen, and I'm running to be your next Vice President Student Life. I'm going to tell you a bit about myself and my plan. So I was this year's school cup director, and I experienced firsthand the struggles of transitioning a previously in-person portfolio to the online world. I had some successes and some failures, and I think these challenges have equipped me well for NSOC's continued remote operation, while, fingers crossed, hopefully a move back to in-person. You may also know me from Godiva Week or from the band. I might have been your deputy returning officer in a previous cycle, or maybe even responsible for purpling you during Frosh Week. I might have met you as a high schooler during pre-Frosh, or we might have shared a memorable moment at SUTS. Who knows? My experiences in a wide variety of school life have given me a broad and diverse perspective on the community. And I think this, combined with my demonstrated passion and work ethic, makes me uniquely positioned to be an advocate for students and clubs first and foremost within NSHOC. I'm now going to highlight 3 action items that I drafted in consultation with club representatives and community members. These consultations can be found, by the way, in their full form on my Facebook page. Please check it out. The first thing is regular check-ins with clubs. So a common concern across all clubs was the need for consistent and clear communication, especially in regards to key dates, finance options, safety, and COVID protocols. So these check-ins will serve to address those concerns as well as enable me to provide assistance for anything else that may come up during the year and that NSHOC can help with. In addition, the difficulty in learning how to navigate the NSHOC landscape was brought up, so I will be preparing materials specifically tailored to incoming club leads to ease these transitions and for entirely new clubs as well to make sure that they're not missing out on anything. Number 2 is connecting clubs with students through a Student Life Discord. This should help clubs with recruitment cycles outside of club fairs, event announcements and promotion, and running events in an open forum that passerbys can join in on. This should let students as well tailor event notifications to what interests them, for all you gamers out there who know how Discord works, and access up-to-date information on clubs that they're looking to join. Since you can post instantly and not have to worry about updating the website. So item number 3 is the 2T4 committee. I was lucky enough to chat with a couple of 2T4s this past week, and I heard their struggles and difficulties with having to do their entire first year online. This is not something that NSHOC should take lightly. So I will be assembling a 2T4 committee dedicated to brainstorming community building efforts specifically for this cohort. By the time we return to campus, I will have a concrete plan of events that centers around both strengthening the connections that already exist and creating avenues for new ones. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions. My DMs are open, so slide right in. And I would be extremely honored to serve as your next Vice President Student Life. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Carmen. And with that, we will move on to questions from the audience. Does anyone other than Harrison have a question?
Yeah, I guess this is another one, just kind of.
Harrison, I'm just asking if anyone other than Harrison had a question because you asked the first one last time. But it looks like no one else does, so go for it.
Apparently no one else does.
Oh wait, Arcade does. Okay, we'll go with Arcade, then we'll come back to you, Harrison.
Yes, might as well throw one in. So regarding your building more community for the 54, can you hear me?
I can't hear
Arcade,
you.
Yeah.
do you mind typing out your question, Arcade?
Yeah.
All right, in the meantime, I guess we'll go to Harrison.
Yeah, I think so thank you for running, Carmen. I think one of the things I kind of want to touch about is like, you know, you've been around the school community for the past couple of years. And I think, you know, there's been some different kind of things I've done in the past, you know, like roles and activities and other things. I just want to know, like, you know, what are some of the things that we learned from those and how do you plan to apply that as VPSL?
Okay, I'll start in reverse order maybe. I guess with school cup director, I mentioned some things in particular. The biggest thing I think I learned from that is engagement and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. Like, it's been a common theme. A lot of people have touched on it. A lot of students don't generally just go to, like, you know, getting people out to events is really the biggest thing. Just thinking out loud, with deputy returning officer, I got to learn a lot about bylaws and policies and stuff like that. I guess I worked on the dive station subcom and we ran into a lot of issues that year. And the one thing I learned is how to bring up your ideas when there's lots of other people involved in a conversation, as well as dealing with faculty members and spaces, because we had to move all of our stuff to another location. So a lot of things. I can go into depth, but in the interest of time, I'm trying to keep it brief. But yeah, I don't know if I should keep going.
No, that's fine. The Arcade has written his question in the chat. I can read it out. For the community building, can you give me an estimate plan of what you will do, the timeline, the project's milestones, things like that? I have spent a considerable time in Chem Club trying to bridge the gap with and between 2T4s, and I was wondering how much would you say it is a technical barrier compared to just inertia of not wanting to meet people online?
So that last bit, I think the inertia of not wanting to meet people online is huge. All the 2T4s I talked to said, you know, orientation made great efforts this year, and they did their almost all of them did the first day of Frosh Week online, but then it just got exhausting and they just didn't feel like it after the first day. So I really think the inertia, that's why I specifically outlined that these efforts will be for when we return to campus. All the 2T4s I've talked to are just like, oh my God, I can't, like when we get back to campus, And so yes, a lot of people have made really good efforts to make the most out of the online world, as have I. I think it's also important to not forget that there are a lot of benefits in person, and we should have a plan to take advantage of those as soon as we can get back to campus. Projects and milestones, estimate of the plan of what you will do. The first thing is assembling a committee, obviously of 2T4s in particular. I guess it's in the air right now when we're returning to campus, but I would work on setting a plan as soon. So this, I'm talking like months, like 1 to 4 months, really.
Perfect, thanks. And we are actually pretty much exactly at 3 minutes there. So we will move on to our last VPSL candidate, which is Terry.
Hello. So hi, my name is Terry. I'm a second year EC student, and I am really excited to be running for VPSL. Just a little bit first about like why I'm running, and then I'm going to talk about my 3 different, I guess, points on which my campaign is based upon. So the first, why I'm running, I'm ever since I kind of got into school, I've been a part of kind of a lot of different clubs, and and coming all the way from, I guess, high school to university, I found that specifically in terms of school, the thing that made school different in terms of I guess the atmosphere, and specifically what I noticed in the differences perhaps from artsy, is the student life, right? It's a club activity, and I just hope to be able to bring and to give back as a VPSL. So sorry, I spent a lot of time. My platform is threefold. First of all, more communication. In terms of communication, that means firstly, more platforms. So as other people have said, as of the moment, school is primarily based upon Facebook, but as the younger generations move up and whatever, Facebook is spreading apart, right? So as VPSL, I propose to add stuff like a Discord and Instagram. I also propose a centralized platform, which will also tie into my third point. But at the moment, there are 2 main recruitment cycles, right? Winter and falls. The fall club fair, like those are the 2 main big ones. There are also the emails that happen monthly. But I believe that by having a centralized platform, we would have a kind of like a central locations where students can look. It's up to date. You can see what events, if clubs are looking for members, and a central place to communicate with the clubs. In terms of student support, student life is important. I hope to hold more events to build up that community. I think having events like School Cup, except less, I guess, competitive or like less discipline based and more like individual or group based, is important. So like this would kind of, as for the online, it's something along the lines of, like, I personally loved stuff like dusted dinner dances, and online it's become so much more hard. So basically creating more events kind of like those to build up the community. And finally, club support. So in terms of membership, like I said before, that new communication platform, I believe, will vastly help with the membership. In terms of financing, I hope to be able to have talks with the VPF and make it easier for people to clubs to find outside NSOC financing and affiliation, streamlining affiliation. Sorry, I've been told that my time is up, and yeah.
Thank you very much, Terry. And so with that, we will move on to questions from the audience. I'm going to let Michaela ask a question because she wanted to last time. So take it away.
Thank you. Great job, Terry. One question I have is, so you mentioned a centralized platform for clubs for students to learn about their events. So this has also been mentioned by other candidates in the VP Communications platform. So do you see yourself working with the what's it called? The VP communications and how your relationship with them throughout the year.
Yeah, of course. I think in like most of my things, in most of my I guess points on for my platform, I'll definitely have to be working with like different VPs. Like I said, I'd be working with a VP finance. I think especially with the point of the centralized platform, working with the VP of VP comms will be like very important. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Terry. I see Harrison has a question, so if you want to ask that.
Cool. Yes. Thanks for running, Terry. One of the things that I kind of want to ask about is like, so hopefully during your term, like clubs will start like being allowed back on campus. So how do you plan on like supporting those clubs? That transition back, and like where do you see yourself in that equation?
I think there will definitely need to be I think there are two, I guess, main stakeholders. First of all, are the clubs that I guess started in the pandemic and like have kind of I guess don't have like first of all, they don't have like that kind of built upon history. For example, they might not have club space already. They might not have like locations to which they're prior, I guess they have experience with. Second of all is the 2T4s, and of course, depending on when 2T5s. In terms of the club support, in terms of I guess the clubs that have been online, I think depending on like when we find out, we have to start like talking and creating, I guess, having talks to how clubs will be running as soon as I guess we find out that school will be online. So as soon as we do that, as soon as I guess we find that out, then as VPSL, I will begin having those talks, discussing with these clubs what they will need, what they think that what their plan is, and what they think that how their club will be running in person will look like. In terms of the 2T4s, 2T5s, I think for a lot of them, it's I guess the experience of they don't know like what the clubs are actually like, right? They might have only been in a club while it's online. So I think having those, having like opportunities where they learn about, I guess, the club and what they're like, and what an in-person club actually looks like is extremely important. So I guess making events which will allow them to, I guess, ease in and transition and see like what design clubs are like and how they work and how like other clubs work, I guess. So I've been.
All right, thank you very much, Terry. And now we'll take a few minutes for the candidates to ask each other some questions. So whoever would like to ask a question of another candidate, feel free to throw your hand up. It's also not mentioned. Okay, Carmen.
I have a quick question for Andrew. You mentioned all of your extracurriculars, and yes, a lot of us struggle with those. But the one thing that when I was talking to previous VPSLs, was how stressful this role is, and how much time, even mental energy, it consumes. So I was wondering if you could specify which roles you will be stepping down from if you're elected, and which you will be maintaining.
Yeah, thanks, Carmen, for the question. Yes, I understand it's very stressful. And so second year, 7 courses, it's not easy. Which roles will be stepping down from? It depends, right? Like y'all do a lot yourself, so you understand that perhaps having a well-rounded perspective on student life is very important. Really, let me go through this stuff then, since you're really interested. So IEEE, I'm going to step down as the media director. I'm going to become an advisor for the team. So that would be like a 1 hour per week kind of role. Tech Explorer, I don't think I'll be part of Tech Explorer next year, depending on the human resource management of the current executive team and the recruitment process, seeing how many people will apply, how many people will be on the team. I may not be part of the team. What's the other ones? ME checks I'm planning to run with the next mental health and wellness director. So I'm going to delegate some of the work out there and do some executive recruitment for that. So I'm not going to be heading as a host or co-host. Inventors Club, just starting club, is a small club. Haven't been doing too much work for that even now. So depending on how much they grow, might be involved, might not be. UTTS just got founded, so no idea about that yet. If you want to learn more about the plans for the club, John's a good person to contact and refer you to that person if you're interested in more information about that. UTSU, I don't think I can serve on the board as UTSU if I'm serving the board as NSHOC, right? Especially in executive position. If it's just board of directors, it's fine. But if it's like VPSL plus vice president professional faculties, for instance, that's not legal actually. So yeah, if you had anything specific you want to ask as well, please go ahead.
I actually want to see. Thanks, Andrew. I want to see if there's any other questions from either Andrew or Terry for another candidate.
I think I'm good on my side.
All right. So you have a question, Terry?
No, I'm good on my side, I think.
Okay. Okay. Well, if there's no other questions for the other candidates, I think we can wrap up this section, which concludes the sort of like official mandatory part of the meeting. Thank you all candidates. I'm going to ask if you have time to stick around in case there's more questions for any candidates from the audience. Feel free to stick around and take those. So if there's any questions for any candidates who are still here from the audience that you'd like to ask, feel free. If not, thank you everyone for coming. All right, looks like Michaela.
Elliot.
Oh, yeah.
Elliot, I was just gonna ask that any questions on the anonymous form for the VPA?
We only got the one earlier, and I asked that one. If I know it's like 3:30 where you are, so like again, nobody has to stick around. If you want to leave, it's more just if you're willing to, that'd be great. Because if not, there are a couple more anonymous questions. All right, perfect. And with that, we'll go to Michaela.
Hello, I have a question for Andrew. It's about improving specific areas of Frosh. So how do you see your relationship with the orientation chair in helping to improve these areas, and how are you going to ensure that you're not like micromanaging the team and telling them what to do and still giving them a chance to create the orientation the way they see it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I see myself as more of not a co-director of any sort, more like acting as a source of support for Frosh. So yeah, if you came to the board meeting when the last OC did their report, there seemed to be a bit of beef as to what went on during the process. So what I want to do is to try to mitigate any conflicts that come up in that regard through things like I mentioned, including advocating and securing more funding to fulfill student financial needs or to accommodate for changing ticket prices. And then depending on if it's in person or online, I'm not going to spoil too much of this, but planning for something to do with the 2T force as well. But all in all, I think establishing a efficient and professional collaborative relationship with the orientation chair, delegating specific tasks to the chair, or having the chair delegate specific tasks to myself as the VPSL is going to be very important in being able to successfully manage such a large and daunting task with the uncertainty that we don't even know if we're going to be in person or online. So it's very intricate relationship, right? Like if you think about it, the OC has a lot of work. The OC does all the internal recruitment, right? OC does picks up the vice chairs and picks out the volunteers and things like that. And as a VPSL, I shouldn't overstep as to say, hey, this is how you're supposed to run Frosh. Perhaps at the beginning, I think what would be helpful and what I plan on doing is to have clear communications as to the objectives and milestones we want to hit as a entire portfolio for orientation. And being able to establish these milestones will then help drive impact later on throughout the summer, throughout September, and throughout, well, winter Godiva week as well.
Okay, thank you, Michaela and Andrew. Actually, see, we got a question from Laura in the chat. I just want to go to one question from the anonymous forum first. Andrew, you've already pretty much responded to this, but I guess for Carmen and Terry, what other commitments do you have for this year? And how do you plan to balance your priorities with VPSL, especially those that have club leadership, other boards or councils, or other major commitments?
I can return. Sorry. Okay. I'll go first. I believe at this point, the only other thing that I would be involved in is a design team, but I don't have any obligations right now. I can pick up work as I wish to, and obviously, depending on if I get this role, that amount of work that I pick up will change. Other than general community involvement, I don't think I currently have any other leadership positions lined up going into the next year.
For me, currently I am a part of high school. I founded the U of T Green Association. Next year, I will hopefully be working more in a lesser capacity, just because I will be stepping down, hopefully giving it to a different person, or I'm also in UTAT and EWB. And I was a part of Learn AI. And personally, I think, well, first of all, I would completely be willing to or step down from like a couple of commitments. I'm in multiple parts of UTAT, so I'd be willing to step down from a couple of that. But also, like this year, I think for EC students is hardest. I've also overloaded this year to kind of hopefully be able to take a little bit of lighter course load next year. So hopefully that won't be an issue. Like hopefully I've like planned it out well enough, but if not, I would completely be willing to step it down with commitments. But yeah. Oh, and I'm Learning AI is a kind of a course, so I won't be a part of it next year. Sorry, talked about that. Never said anything.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Terry. I think we're going to try to wrap this up in the next 10 or 15 minutes, just because I don't want anyone to feel like they have to stay here. But again, if you do need to leave, don't feel obligated. This was not originally on the schedule. It just seemed like a good idea. We got a question from Laura for Carmen, which is how would you deal with a vision of leadership that does not match your own, and how would you align yourself with that?
That's a really good and difficult question whenever you're working in a group. I think my priority, there's a couple things that people have mentioned already that are super important to remember. One of them is that you don't pick your team. We're all elected. And with that, and also with my platform, what I've outlined in my platform, my focus would really be being a representative for students and clubs. I don't think this is a type of role where it has a lot to do with me and what I want. I think this role is really the connection between NSHLAC and clubs and students. So even at board meetings, even with other officers, my duties and my responsibilities there would be to advocate for students and clubs and what they need. I've also had long chats with 2 previous VPSLs as to what those duties entail, because it can be difficult if you're working very closely together with other people and you both have opposing viewpoints. But this role is kind of carved out on its own. And there's a lot of the role is basically what I said, it's representing and helping clubs and students. So, and then I guess if, like, let's say there was a really conflicting, another officer was going about something in a way that I didn't really agree with, I think one thing that's important with these officer portfolios is that they can kind of operate separately if need be. Obviously, you want to be close relationship with everyone, but if you're not super getting along with other people, you can go about making sure you're getting your work done and collaborating when necessary. So hopefully that answers the question.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Carmen. Thank you, Laura, for that question. I'm not seeing any hands raised, so we'll go to Harrison. Do you mind if I take an anonymous question? This one's for Brohath, actually. Yep, still here. Which is, do you plan to phase out text-based communication in favor of video? A lot of people, for example, might just want to Control F to find things that they want to read, and that's more accessible for a lot of people.
Okay. I don't think just that outright. I want to say legally we're not allowed to phase out text stuff. We are in the end a legal entity which needs textual recordings, textual documents that record like whatever we're doing. So there is no thought of phasing out text. Personally, I am not a big fan of reading. The main idea of having video vlogs, you could say, right, video updates, is so that people who don't really enjoy reading could just, or they don't have enough time to read, because I've read meeting minutes of board meetings which go for like 3-4 hours, right? Like it's not easy to just, to spend some time reading all of that. Instead, if you could just look at the video which summarizes stuff like within 10 minutes, or maybe at most I'm thinking of having them as like 20 minutes long if there's a really long board meeting. There's no, I think there is no point in like cutting out text. Both platforms are just to improve the accessibility for students. I think it is easier to just open YouTube and be like, okay, I'm going to put this on in my background and just listen to it, rather than I'm going to go and find the exact motion that I want to look at and see what the result of that was, right? So yeah, I guess that would answer the question.
Perfect. Thank you, Brohath. I'm going to go to Jackie because Harrison's already asked a couple of questions at the meeting.
I was going to let her go, so.
Okay, this is actually a question also for Brohath. I think like both the app and the video are really like cool ideas, but I also think that they're going to be a lot of work. So I was just wondering, what's sort of your plan for how much of that you would take on personally versus get other people to do and like hire a team to do?
Okay, the videos itself, I'm planning to do them on my own. I mean, like it's a simple thing. I even bought a new camera. Like you can see me in HD right now because
nice.
So that I can record the videos on my own. But I will be learning how to edit videos. I'm not too sure on how to do that, but I do have friends who can teach me, and they have told me they will teach me soon. Right? If I get elected, that's one of the first things I'll do for the videos. And for the app development, like I already said, I don't have the exact technical experience, but I do have a basic idea of what the development timeline is and how it looks like. So I will be hiring a team for that, specifically for that. And like I said, it involves not just developing an app on like a single platform like iOS. There are going to be different teams within the like the big team that works on different platforms. And if everything goes well, I think it will, because it's all about like planning it properly and executing it well and being willing to face the challenges, right? I'm not saying there won't be any challenges, but if everything goes well, by the end of my term, I would be motioning to instate a new directorship called the School App Project Directorship that would help maintain, modify, or change the app as years move along, right? I think that's the best way to go about it, because it is not necessarily true that the VP Com is going to know every single aspect of the role, because they have a huge portfolio, right? They have to look at the webmaster sysadmin PD, the publications. They have to look at they have to record the documents of whatever NSOC is doing. There's a lot of things going on, and they can't know every single thing. So yeah, I think having another directorship would help with the maintenance of the app. So. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that does. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barath. And then we only have one question left on the anonymous form, and it's for Carmen. And that question is, can you go into depth about the situations and lessons you learned during Frosh Week 1T9?
Sure. How do you want to give me a time for the limit for this?
I'm gonna say we've been kind of doing 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and then
Okay.
I've been privately DMing people to wrap things up. So I'm gonna say try to keep it to that.
So maybe I'll only get to a couple things, but the first thing that stands out to me is I think the attitude and knowledge you have going into a role is super important. So for example, whether that's what you want, like there's a difference between wanting to just achieve something and wanting to work with a committee to reach a goal to the best of the committee's ability. Those are two separate things. I learned that very much. And so I think, so yeah, that's one thing. The other thing is communicating your frustrations and really being on top of what's happening. So not letting them just like, if you have disagreements and if you think someone's not conducting themselves well or not treating you well or whatever, you should address those right away so that they don't turn into something bigger than they need to be. What's the other one? Oh boy, is that 3 minutes? I guess just really taking into account perspectives outside of your own, that's super important. And knowing what you represent when you're in a role versus when you're outside of a role as just a student. You sent a doc.
Yeah, sorry, just sent the general information doc as well in case people have any further questions for candidates and stuff. You can find their information there and their Facebook events. Thank you, Carmen. I'm gonna say, are there any other questions? I'm gonna say we should probably wrap this up because it's been an extra 15 minutes, and even though you don't have to be here, I'm sure some of you feel somewhat obligated to be here. So yeah, I think with that, we'll bring this to an end. So thank you everyone for coming.